Han Jisoo stood in the quiet hallway of the deep space research vessel, Myray, as the lights shifted into the soft blue tone that signaled morning cycle. He rubbed his eyes, still half asleep, and walked toward the engineering bay. Even after 3 years in space, he was not used to the artificial day and night rhythm of the ship. The Myray was a peaceful vessel, meant for survey missions and scientific discovery. Nothing exciting or dangerous had ever happened on it. Jisoo often wished something interesting would occur, though he never imagined how strange that wish would soon become. The ship's comm line suddenly echoed through the hall. All crew, report to stations. Unidentified signal detected. Repeat, unidentified signal detected. The voice belonged to Captain Cho, firm and steady. Jisoo paused, his pulse already beginning to rise. Unknown signals were rare. Most signals were from human colonies or old satellites. But this one, the tone hinted, was different. When Jisoo arrived on the bridge, several crew members were already at their stations. Park Hanyul sat in the pilot's seat, hands moving across the controls with quick practiced motions. Kim Daeun stood near the med bay terminal, watching the readings coming in from the sensor team. Captain Cho stood in the center, arms folded behind his back. "What do we have?" Jisoo asked, moving beside Daeun. "A distress signal," she answered. "But it's not using any human frequency." Jisoo stared at the waveform on the screen. The signal pulsed in a strange pattern, unlike anything he had studied. It felt alive, almost like it carried some kind of emotion behind its rhythm. Hanyul glanced over his shoulder. "We're approaching the source now. Visual in 10 seconds. Everyone leaned forward. The main screen flickered as the ship's cameras locked onto the object drifting ahead. At first, it looked like a large piece of debris, but as the lighting adjusted, its true shape became clear. It was a ship. Definitely not human. Its hull curved like flowing metal, almost organic, with faint glowing lines running along its surface. It was beautiful in a strange, unsettling way, and it was badly damaged. Parts of the structure were burned or torn open, and small fragments floated around it. Captain Cho spoke calmly, though even he could not hide the tension in his voice. "Life signs?" "Unknown," Daeun said. "The readings are unstable. There might be one. Maybe two." Jisoo felt his chest tighten. This was first contact. Real first contact. Captain Cho nodded. "Boarding team. Prepare for entry." Jisoo swallowed. He had trained for this kind of situation, but only in simulations. He and Daeun were assigned to the team because of their engineering and medical expertise. Hanyul would remain on the bridge, ready to move the ship at any sign of danger. Minutes later, Jisoo stood in the airlock with Daeun and 2 security officers. They wore light exosuits designed for unknown environments. The airlock door opened with a hiss, revealing the dark interior of the alien ship. Jisoo stepped inside first. The air felt heavy, almost thick, and the lighting was dim. Strange symbols glowed softly on the walls. The corridor curved in gentle arcs instead of sharp angles, as though the ship had grown rather than been built. "Stay close," Daeun whispered. They moved down the corridor, scanning for life signs. A faint beeping sound came from Daeun's handheld device. "I'm picking something up." Ahead, about 20 meters. The team advanced until they reached a wide chamber. The walls were cracked, and pieces of machinery lay scattered across the floor. In the center of the room, half buried under fallen debris, someone or something lay motionless. Jisoo hurried forward. "It's alive," he said when he saw the shallow rise and fall of the figure's chest. The being was humanoid. A woman by shape and features. Her skin was pale with a slight shimmering tone, like polished stone under moonlight. Her hair was long and silvery. Most striking of all were her eyes closed for now, but glowing faintly beneath the lids, as though light lived inside them. Daeon knelt beside her. "She's injured. We need to move her." The security officers lifted the debris carefully, while Jisoo supported her upper body. Her breathing was shallow, and her skin felt cool to the touch, almost unreal. She stirred. Her eyes opened. Jisoo froze. Her eyes were unlike anything he had ever seen silver blue, glowing softly, deep and calm, like starlight reflected on water. They looked ancient, wise, and full of fear all at once. The alien woman struggled weakly, trying to push him away. Her voice came out in a trembling, melodic tone he could not understand. "It's okay," Jisoo said gently. "We're helping you. You're safe now." She looked confused, her eyes searching his face. She spoke again, the words desperate but soft. Daeon shook her head. "No translation match. We'll have to rely on gestures for now." Jisoo raised his hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. Her breathing steadied slightly. Her gaze moved up to his face again, and this time she seemed to really look at him without thinking, because he was nervous. And because her eyes were overwhelming in their beauty, Jisoo said softly, "Your eyes? They're beautiful." The alien woman froze. Her entire body went still, her glowing eyes widening. For a moment, there was complete silence in the chamber. Even Daeon and the security officers hesitated, unsure what had just happened. The alien woman stared at Jisoo as though he had spoken something impossible. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. It was as if the compliment had stunned her more deeply than her injuries. Daeon whispered, "Maybe compliments mean something different in her culture." Jisoo felt heat rise to his cheeks. "I wasn't thinking. It just slipped out." But the alien woman kept staring at him, not with fear anymore, but with a strange, unreadable emotion. Something soft, something shaken. Finally, she closed her eyes again, exhaustion taking over. Daeon checked her vitals. "She's slipping into unconsciousness. We need to get her to the med bay." Together, they carried her back through the corridors and into the Marae's airlock. The moment the doors sealed behind them, Jisoo let out a long breath. His hands trembled slightly. He had just made first contact with an alien, and the first thing he had said to her was a compliment. As they moved her to the med bay, Jisoo kept glancing at her face. Her strange, glowing eyes lingered in his mind. Beautiful, yes, but also full of a story he could not understand yet. When they reached the med bay, Daeon began the medical scans. Captain Cho entered the room. "Report," the captain said. "She's stable for now," Daeon replied. "But her physiology is complex. Her body reacts to stress much faster than humans, and her neural patterns are unlike anything we've seen." Captain Cho nodded. "Can communication?" "No progress yet," Daeon answered. But she seemed to respond to Jisoo. The captain turned to him. "What happened?" Jisoo hesitated. "I said something. She reacted strongly. I'm not sure why." "What did you say?" Jisoo looked down. "I told her her eyes were beautiful." There was a long silence. Hanyul spoke through the comm line, confused. "Wait, that was the first thing you said to an alien?" Jisoo groaned. "I panicked, okay?" But inside, he could not shake the moment. The way she had stared at him, shocked into silence. It felt important somehow, strange, as if he had broken some rule in her culture, or touched something she kept hidden. The alien woman lay quietly on the medbed, her breathing steady. The glowing light behind her closed eyelids pulsed softly. Like a heartbeat, Jisoo watched her, unaware that this simple, awkward moment would change both their lives and perhaps the future of two worlds forever. The alien woman lay quietly in the medbay for hours, her steady breathing the only sound besides the soft hum of the machines. Han Jisoo stayed nearby, pretending he was simply assisting Kim Daeon with work. But in truth, he kept glancing at the patient every few minutes. Something about her presence pulled at his thoughts. Maybe it was the strange glow in her eyes, or maybe it was the way she had reacted to his words. He did not understand her at all, yet he felt an odd connection he could not explain. Daeon finished adjusting the scanning unit. "Her internal injuries are slowly healing," she said. "Her body repairs itself faster than ours. But she's still weak, and her stress levels rise very quickly." Jisoo nodded. She must be scared, waking up on a ship full of strangers, in a completely different species. Daeon gave him a small smile, especially when one of them compliments her the moment she opens her eyes. He groaned. "Please don't remind me." "She didn't react badly," Daeon said. "More like she was confused." Jisoo sighed and leaned against the counter. "I didn't think. Her eyes were just different. I was nervous." Before Daeon could answer, the medbed's monitors beeped softly. The alien woman stirred. Her fingers twitched, and her eyelids moved. Jisoo stood up straight, suddenly alert. Her eyes opened. The soft silver-blue glow returned, shining faintly in the dim room. She looked around weakly, confused, as if trying to remember where she was. When her gaze fell on Jisoo, she froze again, just for a moment, like she recognized him from a dream. Jisoo raised his hand slightly in a peaceful gesture. "It's okay. You're safe. You're on our ship." She blinked slowly, her breathing uneven. Her lips parted, and she spoke a few quiet words in her own language, the sound gentle but filled with uncertainty. Daeon stepped forward with a small translation device. "We don't understand yet," she said softly, "but we're trying to help." The alien woman looked down at the medical device attached to her arm. She touched it lightly, as though surprised to find something foreign on her skin. But she did not pull away. She only looked confused. Jisoo placed a hand on his chest. "Jisoo," he said slowly, pointing to himself. The alien woman watched him carefully. Daeon did the same. "Daeon." The alien hesitated, then touched her own chest. "Lyra." The name sounded soft and airy, almost musical. Jisoo repeated, "Lyra." Her eyes widened a little, as if surprised he could say it so easily. Then she nodded weakly. A faint moment of understanding passed between them. Lyra tried to sit up, but the effort made her wince. Jisoo quickly stepped forward. "Careful," he said. She looked at him again, and for a moment her eyes softened. But then she glanced around the room with growing worry. She spoke again, her tone sharper, more urgent. Daeon shook her head. "She's asking about something? Or someone?" Lyra's voice rose slightly, not in anger, but fear. Jisoo looked at the readings. "Maybe she thinks we took her prisoner." Daeon lowered her tablet. "We need to show her she has freedom here." Very slowly, Jisoo held out his hand, not touching her, just offering it so she could see he meant no harm. "Lyra," he said gently, "you are safe. We rescued you." Lyra stared at his hand for a long moment. She did not take it, but the fear in her eyes faded just a little. She looked around again, and her voice grew quieter, softer, almost trembling. Whatever she said, it sounded like sadness. "She's alone," Jisoo whispered. Maybe she was the only one on her ship. Daeon nodded slowly. "Or the only survivor." Lyra lowered her head. Her hair slipped over her shoulders like silver water. The glow in her eyes dimmed. Jisoo felt something twist in his chest. He wanted to help her more. He wanted to say something comforting, but he did not know what words her culture used. He only knew what humans said. "You're not alone anymore," he said quietly. Lyra looked at him sharply, caught off guard again. It was almost the same reaction she had when he told her eyes were beautiful. Like simple, direct emotions were strange to her. The med bay door opened, and Park Haniel stepped inside. "Captain wants an update," he said, then paused when he saw Lyra awake. "Oh, she's up." Lyra stiffened immediately, turning her head away from the new stranger. "It's okay," Jisoo said again, gently. "He's a friend." Haniel raised an eyebrow. "She trusts you a lot more than the rest of us." Jisoo ignored the teasing. "She remembers me from earlier. When we found her." Lyra watched the two of them talk, her expression curious but also cautious. She seemed to study every movement, every tone, as if trying to understand the meaning behind their gestures. Yun brought up a hologram of Earth, rotating slowly in the air. She walked toward Lyra and pointed at the image. "This is our home." Lyra's eyes followed the floating globe. She reached out, touching the hologram softly, her fingers passing through the light. She whispered something that sounded like awe. Then Daeon showed a hologram of their ship, the Myray. Lyra studied it carefully. Finally, Daeon showed a hologram of a stick-figure human. Lyra pointed at Jisoo. Jisoo blinked. "Me?" She nodded slowly, then pointed again at the hologram. She seemed to be asking if he and the hologram were the same kind. "Yes," he said. "Human." He pointed to himself again. "Human, Jisoo." Lyra hesitated, then pointed to herself. "Lyra." It was simple communication, but real communication at last. Haniel crossed his arms. "We should tell Captain Cho she's calm enough for a formal meeting soon." Lyra didn't seem to understand the words, but she understood the tone. She looked toward the door with slight worry. Jisoo lifted a hand gently. "No danger?" he said. Her shoulders relaxed. As the others talked quietly. Jisoo stayed close to Lyra, watching how she examined the room and the lights, and even her own reflection on a small metal panel. She studied everything with careful eyes, as though the human world was completely new to her. When she looked at Jisoo again, her gaze held something different: recognition, maybe trust. She spoke softly. A single word that sounded like a question. Jisoo shook his head. "I don't understand yet, but we'll learn." Lyra seemed to accept that answer. She reached out slightly, not touching him, but almost like she wanted to. Then she pulled back, unsure. Yun watched from across the room and whispered to Haniel. "She responds to him more than anyone else." Haniel smirked. Maybe because he started with a compliment. Jisoo pretended not to hear them. As the med bay lights dimmed for rest cycle, Lyra lay down again, her breathing calmer than before. Jisoo remained nearby, sitting quietly on a chair, just in case she woke up scared again. Before closing her eyes, Lyra looked at him one last time. Her silver blue eyes glowed softly, reflecting the gentle light of the room. Then she whispered a sound soft, uncertain, almost like gratitude. Jisoo could not understand the word, but he understood the feeling. Lyra finally closed her eyes, resting. And in that quiet moment, Jisoo realized something simple but important. This was not just a rescue. This was the beginning of something none of them could fully understand yet. The Myray moved through quiet space, but inside the ship, tension grew each hour. Ever since Lyra woke up, she had become more alert, more aware of her surroundings, and more worried. Han Jisoo could see it in her eyes each time the ship changed speed or adjusted course. She always looked toward the ceiling, as if she could hear something the humans could not. Kim Daeon checked Lyra's vitals again. "Her stress levels are rising," she said softly. "Something is bothering her." Jisoo nodded and moved closer to Lyra's bedside. "Lyra," he said gently, "are you afraid of something?" She looked at him, her glowing eyes full of unease. She spoke a few words in her language, but the meaning was lost. She repeated them, more urgent this time, then pointed toward the wall, toward the direction of open space. Daeon frowned. She's sensing something outside the ship. Park Hanyul entered the med bay just then. You two need to come to the bridge, now. Jisoo and Daeon exchanged a look. Hanyul didn't sound casual. Not even close. They hurried to the bridge, leaving Lara under the care of a medical assistant. When the doors opened, Captain Cho stood in front of the main display, his jaw tight. On the screen, a dark shape moved in the distance. What is that? Jisoo asked. Unknown, Captain Cho said. But it appeared on our sensors 10 minutes ago. It's moving faster than any human ship. As the image sharpened, they saw a sharp, angular vessel with red markings glowing along its sides. It looked nothing like Lyra's smooth and flowing ship. This one looked predatory. Daeun whispered. Is it one of hers? Jisoo shook his head. Lyra's ship looked alive. This one looks like a weapon. The captain continued. This ship hasn't hailed us. It's just following. Following us or tracking Lara? Hanyul asked. Before anyone could answer, the ship sent out a blast of energy, not a weapon, but a scanning pulse. The Mirai shook lightly. They're scanning us. Hanyul said. Jisoo felt his stomach twist. They know she's here. Captain Cho narrowed his eyes. Bring Lara to the bridge. If this ship belongs to her species, she might know what they want. If it's an enemy, she needs to warn us. Daeon nodded and hurried back to the med-bay. A few minutes later, she returned with Lyra, who leaned on her shoulder for support. Lyra's eyes went straight to the display. The moment she saw the ship, her entire body stiffened. She whispered one word, her voice full of fear. None of the humans understood it, but they understood the emotion. Jisoo stepped close to her. Lyra, who are they? She pointed at the enemy ship with a trembling hand. Then she pressed her hand over her heart, then toward the screen, and shook her head quickly. Daeon interpreted slowly. Not her people. Lyra nodded hard. She pointed at the screen again, then made a violent motion like something being torn apart. Jisoo felt cold. They attacked her. Lyra touched her wounded side, then looked at Jisoo with desperate eyes. They want her, Hanyul said quietly. They were hunting her before we found her. Captain Cho exhaled slowly. They might attack us to get her back. Lyra shook her head strongly, then pointed at the Mirai, then to herself, then again at the enemy ship. She was trying to explain something. Jisoo stepped closer. Lyra, are they after your people's technology? She looked surprised. He guessed correctly, then nodded. Daeun spoke softly. Her ship must have something valuable, something dangerous. Lyra looked down, guilt or sadness on her face. Before anyone could say more, the enemy ship sent another pulse, this time much stronger. The Mirai's lights flickered. Hanyul shouted, Shields are dropping. They're trying to shut us down. Captain Cho raised his voice. All stations, prepare for defensive maneuvers. Lyra grabbed Jisoo's arm, her glowing eyes filled with warning. She spoke quickly, pointing at the enemy ship, then the navigation controls. Jisoo turned to Hanyul. She knows what they'll do next. We need her help. Captain Cho hesitated, then nodded. Let her try. Hanyul moved aside, allowing Jisoo to guide Lyra closer to the controls. She touched one of the holographic panels gently, her fingers glowing faintly as if her energy reacted to the ship. Is she doing that? Hanyul asked. The holograms brightened, steadying themselves. Lyra spoke a few words, then pointed in a specific direction. Jisoo translated as best he could. She wants us to move that way. She knows how to avoid their scanners. Captain Cho gave the order. Follow her instructions. The Mirai turned sharply, moments before a burst of red energy shot past where they had been. Hanyul let out a breath. That would have hit us. Lyra wasn't done. She pointed again, more urgent. Jisoo nodded and relayed her direction. The Myray dodged left, then dipped downward. Another blast flew past. Jisoo stared at her, amazed. She knows their attack pattern. Dayan said she must have survived more than one encounter with them. But Lyra suddenly stumbled. Her body trembled, her strength failing. Jisoo quickly caught her before she fell. "Lyra!" She clutched his arm, breathing fast, her glow dimming. But she forced herself to speak again, pressing her hand against the console. A small hologram appeared, an image of the damaged part of her ship that they had rescued her from. She pointed at it, then at the enemy ship, then shook her head again. "She's saying something important," Dayan said. Jisoo thought hard. "Her ship. The enemy wants something inside it. Something dangerous." Lyra nodded weakly. Captain Cho spoke quietly. "If they get whatever is inside her ship, we're all in danger. Her people, our people, maybe more." At that moment, alarms blared. "The enemy ship is charging a weapon." Hanul shouted. The screen showed a bright red glow building at the front of the hostile vessel. Lyra looked up, her eyes glowing fiercely despite her weakness. She grabbed Jisoo's wrist with surprising strength and pulled him toward the back of the bridge. She pointed at a panel near the wall. Jisoo blinked. "That's the emergency power routing system." She nodded quickly and motioned to him to open it. Captain Cho gave a fast nod. "Do it." Jisoo opened the panel. Lyra pressed her hand onto the core regulator. A surge of strange light passed from her palm into the machine. The Maray's lights brightened. The energy readings rose sharply. Hanul stared. "She's giving the ship more power?" Dayan whispered. "Or unlocking something we didn't know it could do." Captain Cho gave the order. "Divert all power to shields." The enemy ship fired. A massive beam of red energy slammed into the Myra. The ship shook violently. Panels sparked. But the shields held. Barely. Hanul breathed out. "We would have been destroyed without her." Lyra swayed, almost collapsing. But Jisoo held her steady. She looked up at him with tired eyes, then at the enemy ship, then spoke a soft, shaky phrase. Jisoo didn't understand the words, but he understood the meaning. She was thanking him. The captain said, "Prepare for counteraction. We're not letting them take her." Jisoo looked at Lyra, who leaned weakly against him. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. This was a fight. And humanity was now part of it. The Myra shook again as the enemy ship fired another pulse that grazed the shields. The lights flickered, and the floor beneath Jisoo's feet vibrated with each impact. Smoke drifted from one of the panels at the back of the bridge, and the air felt charged with fear and tension. Yet through all of this, Lyra stood beside him, weak but determined, her glowing eyes fixed on the enemy ship. Captain Cho moved quickly between stations. "Damage report." He called. Park Hanul pressed buttons rapidly. "Shields at 40%. One more direct hit, and we lose protection." Kim Dayan frowned at her readings. "Whatever Lyra did gave us a boost, but it won't last long. We need a better plan." Jisoo looked at Lyra, hoping she had an idea. She steadied herself with one hand on the console and pointed at the hologram of her damaged ship that still floated in front of them. She then motioned toward the enemy ship again. "She's trying to tell us something," Jisoo said. Lyra stepped closer to the hologram. She tapped the damaged section of her ship, then held her hands apart as if forming a sphere, then pushed her palms outward in a burst-like motion. Jisoo interpreted slowly. "Her ship has something powerful inside it. Maybe a defense system." Lyra nodded weakly. Hanul raised an eyebrow. "A weapon?" Lyra hesitated. She didn't seem happy about the idea, but slowly nodded again. Dayan whispered, "She doesn't want to use it, but she knows we may have no choice. Captain Cho crossed his arms. Can her ship still activate it while it's damaged? Lyra shook her head, then pointed at herself, then at the console, then made a motion like connecting two pieces together. Jisoo understood immediately. She needs to go there? She needs to activate it manually. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. You want to leave the ship? Captain Cho asked. Lyra looked at him with steady eyes and nodded. Jisoo stepped in front of her. No, your ship is barely holding together. If those attackers get close, she placed a hand gently on his arm. Her touch was cool but full of resolve. Her eyes softened for a moment before she spoke quietly. Jisoo couldn't understand the words, but the meaning felt clear. She didn't want to risk the Mirai. She didn't want to risk them. Daeun sighed. She thinks this is her responsibility. Jisoo clenched his fists. He hated the idea, but he also knew she was right. Humans had no weapon strong enough to stop the enemy ship. If Lyra had a way to defend them, they needed it. Captain Cho stood tall. Prepare a shuttle. Jisoo, Daeun, you'll escort Lyra to her ship. Jisoo blinked. Me? You're the only one she trusts enough, the captain said firmly. Lyra looked at Jisoo, her eyes glowing softly with agreement. 10 minutes later, they stood inside the shuttle bay. The shuttle was small but sturdy, built for quick travel. Jisoo climbed into the pilot's seat while Daeun helped Lyra secure herself. Lyra looked out the window as the shuttle doors closed, her expression full of worry and purpose. The shuttle launched into space, breaking away from the Mirai. The enemy ship noticed immediately. A red beam shot toward them. Hold on, Jisoo shouted. He jerked the controls sharply. The shuttle spun to the side as the beam rushed past. The force rattled the cabin, and Lyra gripped the seat tightly. We're okay, Daeun said. Trying to calm her, Lyra nodded, but her eyes remained focused ahead. Soon, the wrecked remains of her ship came into view. It floated silently, pieces drifting away like dust in the starry void. When the shuttle came close, faint lights on the ship reacted to Lyra's presence, glowing weakly. Jisoo guided the shuttle to the safest spot he could find on the hull. The magnets locked onto the surface, and the engines powered down. We're here, he said. Lyra unbuckled herself and stood slowly, still weak but determined. Jisoo and Daeun put on emergency suits and followed her through the hatch. The three moved carefully into the broken halls of the alien vessel. The air felt strange inside, thin, cold, and heavy with a metallic scent. Lights flickered along the walls, and strange symbols glowed faintly. Lyra paused and placed her hand on one of the walls. The ship responded to her touch, lighting up brighter, as though recognizing her. She's connected to it, Daeun whispered. Like the ship listens to her? Lyra nodded once, then motioned for them to follow. They walked deeper through the ruined corridor, until they reached a chamber filled with damaged machinery. In the center was a large, glowing core that pulsed weakly. Lyra pointed at it. She spoke softly, but her voice carried sadness. Jisoo stepped closer. This is it. The defense system? She nodded. The enemy ship outside fired another shot. The wrecked hull around them trembled. We don't have much time, Daeun said. Lyra approached the core. She placed both hands upon it. At first nothing happened. Then her eyes brightened, glowing brighter than Jisoo had ever seen. Light rushed from her palms into the machine. The ship responded, its damaged panels lighting up in long waves, but the effort shook her body. Jisoo rushed toward her. Lyra! Stop, you'll hurt yourself. She whispered something, shaking her head. She kept going. The core brightened until the entire chamber glowed. On the Mirai's sensors, an enormous energy spike appeared. Back on the enemy ship, their scanners beeped in alarm, and then the core released its power. Massive wave of blue-white energy burst outward from Lyra's ship. It expanded in a perfect sphere, passing harmlessly through the Myray, but slamming into the enemy vessel. The impact sent the hostile ship spinning away, its red lights flickering wildly. Systems shut down. Weapon cores faded. Their engines lost power. They were defeated. Silence filled the alien ship. Lyra fell to her knees, her glow fading completely. Jisoo caught her before she collapsed. "Lyra!" he called, his voice shaking. Her eyes fluttered weakly. She reached up, touching his cheek gently, her hand trembling. She whispered a phrase in her language. The words were soft, full of gratitude and something deeper. Jisoo felt his heart tighten. He didn't know the words, but he understood the feeling. Daeon knelt beside them. "We need to get her back to the Myray." She pushed her body too hard. Working together, Jisoo and Daeon carried Lyra back through the corridors and into the shuttle. As the doors closed, the alien ship dimmed slowly, its purpose complete. During the flight back, Lyra lay quietly with her head resting against Jisoo's arm. Her breathing was soft and slow. Jisoo held her hand gently, not wanting to let go. When the shuttle landed on the Myray, Captain Cho and several crew members rushed forward. "Is she alive?" the captain asked. Jisoo nodded. "Yes, but she needs rest." They carried her back to the med bay. Daeon immediately began checking her vitals while Jisoo stayed close. Lyra opened her eyes just a little, enough to look at Jisoo. Her hand reached weakly toward him. He leaned closer. She whispered something faint and warm. Jisoo didn't understand the words, but he knew. She was saying thank you, and something more, something that made his heart feel warm and heavy at the same time. He squeezed her hand. Gently. "You're safe now," he said softly. And this time, she didn't look confused. She smiled. Han Jisoo sat quietly beside the small window of the medical room, watching the endless stars drift by. The ship was calm again. The alarms were gone. The shaking was gone. The danger was gone. But inside him, his thoughts were still loud. Every moment of the battle replayed in his mind, especially the parts where Lyra had almost died. He could still feel the fear in his chest. Lyra rested on the bed across from him. Her eyes were closed, and her breathing was steady. She looked peaceful now, much more than before. Her silver blue eyes were hidden behind her eyelids, but he remembered how bright they had been during the fight. He remembered how she had looked at him with shock when he placed himself between her and the enemy fire. Kim Daeon walked into the room quietly. She smiled when she saw Jisoo still sitting there. "You have been here for hours," Daeon said softly. "She is fine. You can rest too." "I know," Jisoo answered. "I just wanted to stay here until she wakes up." Daeon nodded as if she understood. "You care about her a lot." Jisoo looked away, unsure how to answer. "She is our guest. It is the right thing to do." Daeon only smiled again, a knowing smile, and left the room. A few minutes later, Lyra slowly opened her eyes. She blinked several times before her gaze focused on Jisoo. When she realized he was there, she looked surprised. "You stayed," she said, her voice weak but clear. "Of course," Jisoo replied. Lyra tried to sit up, and Jisoo quickly helped her. Her movements were slow, but she didn't seem to be in pain. "I am alive," she said quietly, as if she was trying to confirm it for herself. "You are safe," Jisoo said. "We protected you." Everyone worked together. Lyra looked down at her hands. "I did not expect humans to fight for me. I thought humans only protected their own." "That is not true," he said. "We protect people who need help. We protect our friends." Lyra stared at him, thinking deeply, as if the word friends was something heavy and meaningful. A few hours later, the crew gathered to discuss the next step. Lyra's ship had been repaired enough for her to travel back to her people. The attackers had retreated far into the distance. It seemed safe for her to leave. Hanul, the pilot, stretched his arms and sighed. So this is it. She goes home. Jisoo felt a strange twist in his chest. He knew she needed to go home, but the idea made him feel empty. Lyra stood beside him with her usual calm expression, but he could see something different in her eyes, something softer. Your people must be worried, Jisoo said. Yes, Lyra answered. My people do not show emotions openly, but they will be relieved that I am alive. And they will be grateful to your crew. Hanul smiled. Tell them humans are not so bad. Lyra nodded seriously. I will. When the time came, Jisoo escorted Lyra to the small docking bay where her repaired ship waited. She walked slowly, taking in the ship around her as if memorizing it. The lights, the halls, the sound of the engines. She looked at each of them carefully. At the entrance of her ship, Lyra stopped and turned to Jisoo. Before I leave, she said, I want to say something. Jisoo waited. Lyra took a small breath. My people have a tradition. When we want to show deep gratitude, we speak a phrase that is only used in rare situations. But I cannot say it yet. I am not sure I understand the meaning well enough to use it. Jisoo smiled gently. It's okay. You don't have to force anything. But I want to give you something, she said. Jisoo blinked. Give me something? Lyra nodded and looked straight into his eyes. Her silver blue eyes were calm and bright again. When we first met, she said slowly, you told me something. You looked at me and said my eyes were beautiful. No one has ever spoken to me that way. Jisoo felt warmth rise to his face. I meant it. I know, Lyra replied, her voice soft. At first, I did not understand. I thought it was strange. I thought it was unnecessary. But during the battle, and after, I thought about it. She stepped a little closer, and now I want to say it back. Jisoo blinked in surprise. Lyra lowered her voice even more. Your eyes are beautiful too. The words were simple, but the way she said them held so much meaning that Jisoo felt frozen. He had seen her scared, angry, confused, brave, and tired. But this was different. This was Lyra trying to speak in a new way. He didn't know why. He didn't know what to say. He didn't want to say the wrong thing, so he simply gave her a warm smile. Lyra looked relieved. As if his smile was enough. She turned toward her ship, but suddenly paused again. Jisoo, she said, would you come visit my world someday? I would like to show you how my people live. I would like to show you the sky of my home. Jisoo felt his chest grow warm. I would like that very much. Lyra nodded once, then stepped into her ship. The door closed behind her with a soft sound, and the lights on her ship brightened. Jisoo stepped back as the engines roared to life. The ship lifted gently into the air and rotated toward the stars. And then, with a burst of light, it flew forward and vanished into the deep, endless space. Jisoo stood there for a long time, looking at the place where the ship had disappeared. He felt a strange mix of sadness and hope. She was gone, but the promise she made felt real. A connection had formed between them, unexpected, simple and strong. Behind him, Hanul's voice broke the silence. So, you're planning to visit an alien planet now? Jisoo turned and gave him a small smile. Maybe. Hanul laughed. Well, when you go, take pictures. Jisoo walked back through the hallway, feeling lighter. Though Lyra had left, something inside him had changed. Humanity had proven itself, not through power or technology, but through kindness, courage, and simple words that carried deep meaning. He looked out a window again, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, Lyra was going home. Somewhere out there, she was thinking about the same moment. And Jisoo whispered to himself, not in sadness, but in quiet hope, "I will see you again."